up, family? Welcome to the Mental Game Podcast, man. I'm late today. I'm supposed to be on here at 9 on the dot for the people that's watching live, man. Shout out to everybody who's been rocking with me. Shout out to y'all. I appreciate y'all watching. What is watching? For watching, listening. That sounds like something my sister said. Welcome back to the Mental Game Podcast for the people that's been rocking with me. You know what I'm saying? If you're new here, I appreciate you pulling up. You know what I'm saying? Thank you for being here. The support, you know what I'm saying? You already know we keep it real over here. Shout out to the brand. As everybody know, Mental Game started out as a clothing brand. You know, I'm wearing my merch right now. You know what I'm saying? Need some merch, man. Get at me. I need to put my stuff on my website down. I need to at least put my merch on TikTok shop or somewhere so everybody can get it while I'm working on my website. You know, shout out to the daddy hood, man. You know, the hardest hood you ever be a part of, man, the daddy hood. You know what I'm saying? Not the neighborhood, not the block, not the set. Now we talking about fatherhood. I don't know if y'all can hear my dog. He must know I'm home. I came home. I ain't say nothing to him. So he probably like, hey, bro, I'm out here. Hey, you forgot to come speak to me. You know what I'm saying? Or my neighbor, he messing around in his backyard, probably entertaining company. I don't know if y'all can hear him, but I can hear him. He be throwing me off sometimes when I be doing this podcast. I'm like, man, what the heck is his problem? You know what I'm saying? But all month long, man, I want to give a special shout out to fathers, to daddies, man, not just fathers. You know what I'm saying? I feel like anybody could be a father, man, but it takes a special set of individuals in this world to be a daddy. You know what I'm saying? You know, I'm speaking to not just the dudes who have kids, you know what I'm saying? The daddies, the active fathers, you know what I'm saying? The ones showing up, ones out here coaching, you know, the ones out here teaching their kids, you know, the ones out here sacrificing, making sacrifices for their kids, you know, the ones, you know, tired like me, but, you know, still getting up every day, you know, doing what needs to be done, man. Shout out to y'all, man. Y'all are seen. Y'all are appreciated, man. You know, y'all matter. Y'all matter. The fathers do matter. You know what I'm saying? We coming up on June, which is Daddyhood month. I'm going to call it Daddyhood month. And speaking of Daddyhood, you know what I'm saying? Right now, I'm going to put up here on the screen somewhere. The Daddyhood short sets are now on sale, man. DM me, email me, you know, with your, you know, name, size, you know, all those details. And right now I'm accepting payments through Cash App or not a PayPal link, but I'll do PayPal too. Cash App, PayPal, and a Square link. Available now, man. You know, it's out there. You know, I don't want to hear all that, man. I didn't know the sale was going on. I don't hear all that. You know, just I'm letting y'all know right now that the hoodies are available. I can't even tell if I don't see my levels, but I don't know. I guess we working on something. You know, Riverside done changed up its look, so it looked different to me. But yeah, man, shout out to the fathers, man. And like I said, it's about to be Father's Day season, Father's Day month, you know, because, you know, the mothers, they had y'all turn, y'all, you know, y'all go sit down. We took care of y'all. Now it's time to take care of the daddies, you know what I'm saying? So shout out to everybody that's part of the daddyhood, every man that's part of the daddyhood. All right, birthday shout outs, man. This is my last little go round, man, for everybody in May. Shout out to y'all, man. Happy birthday to y'all. Y'all celebrating the birthday, man. You know, shout out to everybody. Also, you know, I got some more shout outs. Shout out to everybody who said, I'm just going to take a quick nap, and they wake up in another universe, another dimension. Well, that's the good sleep right there. You know, shout out to the parents hiding in the bathroom for 5 minutes apiece. I'm going to get to that. Shout out to the family members that never answer the phone, but somehow know everything that's going on. You know, shout out to y'all. Anniversaries, shout out to the people that celebrating anniversaries, wedding anniversaries, sobriety anniversaries, whatever it may be, man. Shout out to y'all. Keep surviving, keep succeeding. You matter. Every day you get up, every day you wake up is a blessing from God. You know, we appreciate, you know what I'm saying, those that are still here with us, we appreciate y'all. Those who have gone on and passed on, man, we, you know, rest in peace, and we love you to the end of time. Shout out to the survivors, man. If you made it through something that nobody clapped for it, man, this shout out is for you, man. Shout out to your bravery. Shout out to your testicular fortitude, as my brother Aaron would say. You know, shout out to you just surviving, man. Shout out to y'all. And of course, I just like to ground my episode. Every episode, I like to ground my episode with a verse. It's Joshua 1:9. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord God is with you wherever you go. I always mention this verse is because it means a lot to me, because it tells me that no matter where you go in life, no matter what you deal with in life, no matter where you are in life, God is always there. God is always with you. And I just want everybody to take that with you and remember that when it comes to your mental health. I don't believe God put anything on us that we can't bear. So I know anything that you're going through, you can beat it, man. You can beat it. You just got to put your mind to it. You got to get your mental game right. I want to follow that up, with something my Aunt Alice not always tell me, but she brought it to my attention. Forgive yourself for not knowing earlier what only time could teach you. A lot of us are fighting battles from years ago. A lot of us are punishing ourselves for decisions we made, not knowing, not knowing at the time. You know what I'm saying? It's something we had to learn going through time. Give yourself some grace, because when you're growing and you're trying to grow, it takes time. You know what I'm saying? Like, for the fellow gardeners out there, you don't just put a seed in the ground and tomorrow you got cucumbers or you got tomatoes, anything like that. It takes time, man. So forgive yourself, man, for not knowing the lessons and things of that sort that only time could teach you. You know what I'm saying? And also shout out to y'all, man. Mental preparedness. I always want to, this is something new I wanted to start. You know what I'm saying? Because mental strength it's not just about mindset. It's also about being prepared, you know what I'm saying, in sticky situations. This week's tip is every paycheck, man, buy something, buy something. Water, rice, beans, canned goods, Mylar bags, flashlights, first aid supplies, you know what I'm saying? You ain't got to spend thousands of dollars, man. Just, build, start small and continue to build, man. Because if you stay in any of the Gulf states like we do, here in Texas, Louisiana, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, you know what I'm saying? There's 9 times out of 10, you live in an area where you're gonna get some heavy rain, storms, lights might go out for an extended period of time, what have you, man. So if you stay in these areas, man, it's a good idea to be prepared. Even if you stay in some Midwest areas or, Western areas, or, the North and Eastern areas, they deal with, snow, you got earthquakes, you got tornadoes and things of that sort. So it's, no matter where you are, it's good to be prepared. So like I said, you ain't got to spend thousands of dollars. You know what I'm saying? Just build small, build slowly. You know what I'm saying? One paycheck at a time. Stock up on, these, non-perishable items, man. That way you can at least, like, lights go off, you know what I'm saying? You can build a fire or something like that. Or, you know what I'm saying? You can boil water or whatever. You'd be able to, survive and feed your family still. You know what I'm saying? Have some lights or something like that. It's also good to get a generator, but I'm talking to the people that don't really have the money for that right now. At least you can still kind of get by. So, yeah. Never underestimate the power of being prepared. I would say that. So, this week, man, I was at work, you know what I'm saying, and I was just telling my homeboy Jeff, my partner Jeff, real briefly, man. I was telling him about my brand and what I do. Telling him I have my podcast. I'm always telling people about my podcast, hoping that they tune in and watch it and really get something from it. And I'm always promoting my brand, telling people about my brand. I'm always preaching mental health to people and whatever it may be. So I was asked, why did I start Mental Game? And honestly, the answer is simple, man. It's very, very simple. Where I'm from, or better yet, the world I grew up in, New Orleans, Louisiana, the 90s, the early 2000s. Back then, mental health wasn't really a thing people talked about. It was it was like one of those touchy subjects. I know my dad was a little rough around the edges, like if you had an issue or something like that, he'd always be like, he had a saying like, you need to go see a shrink, you crazy, or something like that. So it kind of was looked at like, therapists and all that was like for crazy people, and it was a negative thing to be crazy. So yeah, back then mental health wasn't really a thing people talked about, you know what I'm saying? But that doesn't change the fact that it mattered. It did exist. There was people struggled, people suffered, people coped, people found a way to cope. But nobody was really talking about mental health. And that's where Mental Game came from. Because in life, everything is mental. Every decision that you make, every setback, every challenge, every comeback, you got to get your mental game right. And yeah, pun intended on that. You gotta make sure you get your mental game right. You know what I'm saying? That's why I started the brand. And then the brand needed a conversation. It needed a voice. So, the brand started the conversation. This podcast gives it a voice. This is where I could come on here and talk to people and, really spread the message of mental game. You know what I'm saying? And really it's evolved into something now to where it's God's message. It's God working through me to give a message to the masses, to the people, his people. I wanted a place where people could laugh, share real talk about mental health, talk about faith, talk about family, talk about life, of course, daily life. You know what I'm saying? It's a safe space where nobody feels like they being judged. Everybody's accepted on the Mental Game Podcast. And that's what I wanted it. That's what I wanted it to be. That's what I wanted to build. So that's why I started Mental Game. Mental Game started out, I remember talking to my wife about it, after I had the conversation with Sam, that infamous conversation with Sam, just talking about putting things on shirts, putting sayings on shirts, putting meaningful things on shirts. And that's what made me want to start a clothing brand. And, it's got a little bit of symbolism in it, but, it works. But, I got new stuff coming. We got new drops coming. Now it's the summertime. My daughter she's out of school. She can help me, put this stuff together more. Shout out to my daughter. We about to start doing these pop-up shops really, really, really heavy because, the crowds are usually bigger in the summertime. So we finna hit these pop-up shops. So, but speaking of, man, we got a lot of things coming from the camp over here, man. There's a lot of things, man. We got photo booths, we got pickles and pineapples, man. We got all kind of good stuff coming out here, man. We got soap, we got laundry detergent, we got candles again. I'm back in the lab making candles and stuff, man. So big things are coming out of the Mental Game / Serenity Design / Pretty Little Things camp, over here. My family has been going through a lot these past years, and we coming back for everything that was taken from us in 2026 on into 2027, 2028, 2029, 30, 31, forever. You know what I'm saying? As long as we can do this thing, and then we passing it down to the next generation. So y'all gonna have to deal with us, in the future. So shout out to the brand. But speaking of family. I know I'm talking about the family business. Speaking of family, this week, my dad had me and my sister stressed this week, man. This man completely ghosted us. No call. My sister called me, talking about she hadn't heard from my dad in 2 days. And we were worried. We putting out APBs, all that. Now, my dad's 75 years old. He probably gonna get on me for telling his age. Hey boy, don't be telling my age on to everybody and this, that, and other. My dad, I promise, if my dad could still be 54, he'd be 54. That's probably, I thought he might be watching me live. He might have said something. But nah, my dad, he still lives in New Orleans. He kind of on again, off again with his significant other. Sometimes they beefing, sometimes they not, sometimes they good, sometimes they bad. But that's the way love goes and all that good stuff. But so when we found out about, when we first kind of put it together that he was what we thought he was missing. At the time he was beefing with his girlfriend. So we thought that, he wasn't over there. There's no possibility he's over there. They beefing right now. And boy, were we wrong. So we started a little family investigation unit or whatever. So me and my sister started trying to figure out what was going on. We had called, well, let me say this. We end up, of course y'all know we found him. Well, I ain't on here talking about my dad's missing or anything like that. We found him, of course. And his excuse was, my phone was broken. And I'm like, sir, for days your phone was broken? You're like, yeah. Sitting there laughing and stuff like that. Yeah, my phone was broke. Like, bro, if your phone breaks, you don't think to, try to get somewhere to where's a phone, let your kids, who are 400 miles away know that, hey, I know it's been a couple days, but hey, I'm okay. My phone broke and this, that, no. Or, we found him at his girlfriend's house. Or use her phone and call me, be like, hey, my phone broke, but I'm over here. Or something, let us know. So, but shout out to my little brother, Robbie, man. Shout out, I called him, in a pinch, and, because he's still down there in New Orleans, man. Shout out to little Rob. He went over to my dad's house and did a welfare check on him. I don't know if he got through. But but he went over there. He definitely went over there. Shout out to you, Rob. I appreciate you, bro. Because NOPD, the New Orleans Police Department wasn't no help at all. We called them like 8 o'clock in the morning to do a welfare check, and I forget what day that was, but right now, 2-3 days later, we still ain't heard back from them. So shout out to Rob, man, for doing the welfare check. But when we finally got a hold of my dad, man, we gave him the boy. I don't know how to say this without saying pause. So man, we gave him the verbal business, man. Like I said, man, my I went clean off on my dad. I said, now how you just gonna up and go missing and they just not let your kids know anything? So like I said, this man is like, I don't know. Like I said, I know I said 75. I think he probably 76. Yeah, I probably took a year off his age, but he probably gonna kill me for telling his age, but it don't matter. It doesn't matter. Oh, excuse me. So later on, me and my sister, we was on the phone with my cousin Rudy. Cause my cousin Rudy had called and checked on me about he had watched my podcast about me falling off the bike, me telling the story about me falling off the bike, and we were telling Rudy about it, and he was like, man, if y'all was my children, I'd be cussing y'all out for ruining my peace and quiet, man. We lost it, man. We bust out laughing. Rudy crazy, man. But I say all that to say this, man. The lesson for me saying all that is, it reminded me of something. It really, really did. Like, check on your people, man. Call your people. Love on them. When they're in your presence, love on them. When you got them on the phone, love on them. You know what I'm saying? If you're thinking about somebody, pray for them. If you're thinking about somebody, call. If they on your heart, if they on your mind, call. Reach out to them. Even if you think you don't have a number, man. Like, we got social media. These are things social media should be used for. If you think about somebody, call, shoot them a quick message. Hey man, I was thinking about you today. Cause I know there's a lot of people on I see them on social media all the time. Like, if heaven had a phone, if heaven had Facebook, if heaven had this, if heaven had that, make them calls, man, while you can. Because I got obituaries. I got these towels on my wall, man, of people that I can't reach them anymore. And, it makes me real sad when I think of it, when I think of these things, man. And, I just really want people to understand that, our time here is long, but it can be cut short. Just recently, like earlier this year, man, I lost one of my homegirls, man. When we were all kids, man, like about to graduate high school, man, we used to, it seemed like we used to see each other every weekend, and we used to laugh, joke, play, run around, play games, watch movies, and all this stuff. What I'm saying, when we were younger, then naturally when you grow up, you staying in different areas of town, you're working, so time gets away from you, and you don't see each other like you used to, and you start your own lives apart and separately. But the love never changed. It broke my heart when I heard that what she had been dealing with. I'm talking about old Crystal right here. It breaks my heart to know what she had dealt with, and what seemed to me like in silence. I mean, of course, she had her sisters there, her mom there for her. She had a family, but she, like, the extended family, we didn't know anything about it. And I'm glad she was in high spirits from what I've seen. She was always a high spirited girl. I'm glad she had a family and support, even though, we weren't there. So I'm glad. But, and also, J Dub, we lost earlier this year as well. I'm in this group text. I just part of my new group of friends. We all truck drivers, and J Dub was the OG of the group. And I used to talk to these guys every day, man. I still talk to the guys every day, and I talk to J Dub every day, man. Every day we was on the phone. And it's just weird now going forward, just chopping it up with the fellas. We still cut up, still have a good time. But it's a little different without J Dub, man. But, I'm just glad we had that time. Grateful that we had that time. But I know I'm ranting a little bit, but call your people, man, because one day them calls could stop. One day them phone calls will stop. One day you won't be able to make them calls. Or one day you'll be able to make the call, but that person that you're looking for won't answer, man. So check on your people. Call your people. At the end of the day, Mental Game was never about clothing. Even though that's what it started with, but it was never about the clothing. It was about, starting conversations. What I'm saying? People see what you got on your shirt. Hey, where'd you get that from? What does it mean? And things like that. What I'm saying? It's about starting conversations. It's about growth. It's about healing. It's about faith. It's about family and getting your mental game right. But That's all I got for y'all today, man. I ain't gonna hold y'all too long. I'm at the end of my outline. I really don't have much. Yeah, pop-up shops is coming. Y'all remember I got that Daddy Hood sale, so I got the Daddy Hood shirts, put that right here. Got Daddy Hood short set sale, man. Ladies, we took care of y'all for Mother's Day, man. Hit me up, man. I got something for the fathers, man. Yeah, I got the Daddy Hood shirts. Not everybody can be part of the Daddy Hood. We got a whole lot of fathers out here, but we ain't got a lot of daddies. I'm playing. We got a lot of great dads out here, man. Shout out to y'all, man. Daddy Hood is like fatherhood, but cooler. That's what I'm gonna say. But y'all remember, man, I love y'all, man. I appreciate y'all listening. I appreciate y'all watching, man. Y'all remember to be focused and not foolish, man. And we out, man. I appreciate y'all. Love y'all. We out.